Hey everybody, this is Stu Smith. I am live again and working out some kinks with this new program I have to help just show some of the things that I discuss. So anyway, let me do this. I am going to share my screen to a PowerPoint slide that kind of describes a little bit of what I do, who I am. If you're not familiar with this program that I run here in Severna Park, Maryland, very close to Annapolis, called the Heroes of Tomorrow, we train young men and women for free who want to serve. And we've done it for 15 years and to the tune of about 10 to 12 hours a week, 500 hours a year, roughly. So come see us if you're in the area. See if you like it, and we will help you prepare for military, law enforcement, firefighter, special ops. We have them all. Everybody from young high school kids to older guys post-college, preparing for FBI or special forces, firefighters, you name it. So a lot of fun. And my business side is called Stu Smith Fitness. And I actually have a members only program that I'll explain later, but this is a little bit about more who I am if you're not that familiar. I have been doing this tactical fitness for a long time. Started my journey after high school and playing sports, and transitioned from a football type athlete, powerlifting type, to a candidate for SEAL training, which I was able to do after I graduated from the Naval Academy, and been working out and writing about it ever since. After I got out of the military, which was in 1999. So almost 20 years now. So real quick, what is tactical fitness? Let's discuss a little bit about it being athletic, tactical training, performance-based, strength and power, speed, endurance, flexibility, stability, agility, hand-eye coordination, competitive spirit, you name it. There are many other things. There's grip. There's so many other elements that creates a tactical athlete. However, if you notice, this is athletic training too. You need to be good or great at these if you are an athlete. For instance, if you are a powerlifting football player like myself, you probably focus more on strength, power, speed, and agility. You didn't really do a whole lot of anything else, maybe some hand-eye coordination. However, if you were an endurance athlete, like a swimmer or a runner, you probably didn't do a whole lot of strength and power exercises. If you did, you were probably a better runner for it, especially during the off season. And that's where periodization comes in, right? You can't get good at all of these unless you use a periodized cycle, which means you're basically going to have what I call a fitness budget, and I'll describe that in a little bit. So tactical athletes have to be good at all these elements of fitness. Need to treat ourselves like athletes. That's probably something that has occurred in the last decade with the term tactical fitness. I think that was probably one of the best things that has come out of, the term tactical fitness, is that people understand, military, law enforcement, firefighters understand that you are athletes that do these dangerous jobs, right? And it's not a game. In fact, we all have a united mission against a common enemy, whether that is a foreign threat, a domestic criminal, or fire and weather, depending on your job. I mean, it's a mission, right? And it's not whether you win or lose, it's you want to live, right? And if you don't do your job right, you could die doing these jobs. It's that serious. And sometimes your fitness may be a direct result of whether or not you live or die, or whether or not you're able to save somebody. So that's where tactical fitness kind of goes away from athletics, right? Tactical athletics, because there is a big difference. And that is mainly the big difference. So let me explain to it a little bit about it on this little chart here. Made this little Venn diagram here that explains a little bit about what we're trying to do. Because if you think about all the elements of fitness that I mentioned earlier, your strength, power, speed, and agility helps you create a more durable body. Your aerobic, anaerobic conditioning, and muscle stamina, things that you get from calisthenics, running and swimming and other activities, helps build a work capacity. And those two combined together create this hybrid tactical athlete that is both strong and able to have a good amount of endurance and muscle stamina to do the job. So once again, that kind of combines itself into this durable work capacity. Now, the bottom half of this circle really focuses on one of two things. The biggest part on this bottom half is stress mitigation, physical, mental, emotional, because the job is stressful in all three areas. Your recovery, how well you sleep, how well you do mobility and flexibility, how well you eat and treat yourself like an athlete, all helps you mitigate the stress that is created on this job, whether that is having to stay up all night, move unbelievable amount of weight from A to B, do a job and get back, no sleep. There's job related stresses that are physically demanding. There's mental stresses that occur, as well as, the emotional stress that can occur with bad things that can happen. But that's with everybody. We all have, mental, emotional, physical stresses that we have to deal with every day. So it's nothing new. It's part of the job in the tactical athlete. The other side of stability is not just mental stability in your mindset, but it's also your job skills and your body. How stable are your joints and your ability to hold weight for long periods of time, and your ability to coordinate all these movements that are tactical movements, whether that's swimming or it's rucking or it's running and shooting, at the same time. All these job skills are part of the job that you have to, and you put it all together and you build this longevity. And the main reason why I kind of focus on the word longevity in the center is because if you choose this tactical occupation, military, law enforcement, firefighter, you name it, you are going to be older longer than you are younger in this job if you strive to make it a career. So it matters now what you do, because it's all luggage that you're going to bring into your 30s and into your 40s if you don't take care of yourself now. So start learning. And that's really what the main mission of tactical fitness is to build a better foundation for you to get into these training programs, to get through these training programs, and then to maintain your abilities so you can do your job. That is tactical fitness. So as you see, one of the most important parts of that stress mitigation can exhibit itself in signs of overtraining. A lot of times candidates will overtrain themselves, hurt themselves, doing things that require, in order to create this gut check mentality. It can require some aches and pains that go along with it. So the difference between stress and overtraining is obvious. Failure to respond adequately to mental, emotional, physical demands, whether actual or imagined. That's a real important part there, because you can imagine something happening and your body will start creating stress hormones, as it is in a life or death situation. All right. So just think about that for a minute. Overtraining, training the body, lack of ability to recover. Too much overload or too little recovery may result in physical and psychological symptoms of overtraining. So basically, overtraining, under recovery, same thing. If you think about it, I have seen people overtrain. It can happen, but usually overtraining is not just people going crazy hardcore on training. There's usually something on that other end of the scale that's not helping them recover, whether that's sleeping, it's nutrition, it's hydration, it's their programming. What is it that's keeping them from the ability to recover and push them into that overtraining zone, where you will get symptoms like this? And what I would recommend doing is read these symptoms, write these symptoms down, and give them to somebody who cares about you, because you're going to be washed out, feeling tired, drained, lack of energy, pain in muscles and joints, sudden drop in performance, insomnia. And that's the kicker right there, man. If you're trying to sleep and now you're an insomniac because you're just overdoing it and your stress hormones are keeping you awake, it's just a big snowball that keeps getting worse. So your breathing and your sleep skills are critical for you to be able to better get sleep, because sleep is your number one recovery tool, period. You have to get sleep, right? You got to get good at it. You do it every day. It's just like breathing. You're going to do it every day. Get good at doing it. Some other things are headaches, increase number of colds and sore throats. That's basically just low immune system. You're just going to be sick all the time. Decreased training capacity, intensity, moodiness, irritability, depression. That's a big one that can occur. And, loss of enthusiasm for any activity, decreased appetite, etc. So if you have any of these, I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you have multiple of these, I would start worrying a little bit. Maybe even give these to someone who cares about you, because they will probably see them before you do, especially the moodiness, irritability, loss of appetite, enthusiasm. Usually you don't put it together. Someone who's watching you, who's with you every day, will see it, definitely. All right. So there's some of those signs. So how can we combat it? Once again, breathing, big inhales, big exhales. We talk a lot about box breathing in previous podcasts on this channel. 4 seconds inhale, 4 second hold, 4 second exhale, 4 second hold. Just creates a little box in your head. Practice that. If you can't sleep, do some box breathing. Focus on breathing and try not to think of stuff. Find a little happy place and just go to it in your head, versus thinking about all the things that can happen to you that get you all excited, right? Mobility, flexibility days, sessions. Some days, instead of skipping a workout altogether, take one of those hard workouts in the week and turn it into a mobility, flexibility day. One, you keep the habit going of training. You don't get out of habit. Plus, you'll probably feel a little bit better by doing something. Typically, when I do mobility and flexibility days, which I recommend once a week, especially if you're over 40 and still in this business, do it, and you will feel recovered from it. You will feel no pain when you leave, and that is a big plus for anybody, right? Nutrition, once again, just as important as sleeping, if you ask me. Your proteins and amino acids have to be on point, because they're going to help you with the catabolic effects of stress, hydration, electrolytes. Very important, especially if you're sweating profusely. You lacking salts can really crush your energy levels after a workout, especially later in the day if it's hot, and it can create a heat casualty, which will stop you in your tracks no matter who you are. Antioxidants, fruits, vegetables, vitamin C, E, beta carotene, all those are great for helping you combat stress. Omega-3 fatty acids, just as much, helps you with some of the inflammation that stress creates. So All right, so why periodization? What is periodization? Organized approach to training that involves progressive cycling of various aspects of training program during a specific period of time. This was Kravitz and Frankel's definition of it. It's probably the best definition I've seen. I like to think of it as kind of like a fitness budget. And what I do, I create this bell curve of intensity. And this is think of it as a year-long program. So I don't just make workouts of the day. I make workouts that fit into a year program, right? That is what periodization does. So right now, if you think about where we are in the months, we are down here, right? At the end of the year, December, almost January. We're going to come back around here in January. And we have been going on this downward slide of high mileage running and calisthenics and started getting into some lifting. And we're going kind of a linear lift cycle since the fall, right? And now we're going to keep lifting through the winter. And then once the spring gets here, we start riding this bell curve again with the running and calisthenics and transition out. So I'll explain it to you here. Here's how it looks in words, right? So November through February, that's where we are now. We had this 1 month transition back in late October, early November, where we transitioned to weights from is a very high mileage, high calisthenics running cycle, which I'll explain later. Now we're in a 3-month strength, and instead of running so much, when I say so much, we still run every day, but we run fast and we run short. So we might be getting right now about 10 miles a week, but they're all fast and they are, 6-7 minute pace type running stuff for 1.5 miles, or really fast quarters or sprints, right? In between, lifting, depending on what day it is. And then we really focus on ramping up swimming. That is our non-impact activity, and we will swim a lot with fins, without fins, fast, steady pace, just to get used to swimming and all the pool skills that are required for some of these jobs. Now, once we finish this little cycle, it's going to be March. By the time we start transitioning, and we'll be transitioning, adding more calisthenics to the weight cycle in March. So it's kind of the spring and fall 50-50 mix, I call it, where we will half the workout is calisthenics, usually the warm up, and the other half is weighted, and we'll start to progressively get heavier in the fall. But in the spring, we will progressively get lighter and more repetitions, building more towards a calisthenic base in April, May, June, July, and you'll see here. So 2 months of running progression as well, and high rep calisthenics. That's kind of where we're starting to progress up. And that running progression starts off, like I said, 10, 15 miles a week, and we will build up to probably 30. Some guys like to go a little further, especially some of the guys that are bigger, trying to turn into an endurance athlete, may go a little further, may add more biking, almost like a triathlon type training program to transition from a strength athlete into an endurance athlete. I'll get into that in a second. But this is how we transition for the summer. And the summer's awesome because we peak hardcore running, hardcore calisthenics, lots of muscle stamina, lots of calisthenics, lots of testing preparation during these summer months. And usually by August, September, we start tapering down a little bit, and then we test. And we test probably some of the best PT scores, most of the guys ever had is in this time. There are ways to work around it. And if you still have to take PSTs, you can still do well, in the winter time too. Just got to be smart about it and just ask questions. I'll walk you through it. So September through November, once again, we just got off this cycle, and it was a transition from running. So we're running less, but faster, and we are lifting more and doing less calisthenics. So that is how I've been doing it for 20 years now, since 1998, when I realized I needed it, because I actually fell apart at age 30. I was 29, and everything was messed up because I just did flatline, hardcore lifting, running, swimming, high rep calisthenics, did it year after year after year until things just started falling apart. And they literally fell apart. Shoulder injury, ankle injury, required surgery, stress fracture and a femur, hip and lower back injury. About the only thing that wasn't hurting was my right arm and shoulder. So there you go. So it's kind of a lesson learned from that. Not maybe I'll do a PowerPoint on just that journey in itself in a few weeks. So anyway, regardless, there's a transition that occurs when you go from an athlete to a tactical profession. It really kind of depends. Once again, my favorite answer, it depends. You know, if are you a strength and power athlete, you need more endurance. There's a transition that needs to occur. Are you an endurance athlete? You need more strength and power. There's a transition that needs to occur. Maybe you're a hybrid athlete. You know, so you may already do a lot of these things together. Maybe you're a wrestler and a football player or a swimmer. Also, so maybe mix it all together. You know, maybe you need to focus more on flexibility, mobility, skills and techniques. Maybe you're not a great swimmer. If you've been focused more on land, you know, or vice versa, you know, so there's usually a transition that occurs for everybody. Remember how I was talking in the last live, it talked about weaknesses. This is the weaknesses you bring to the table and how you need to fix them, right? But you all need a special focus and a new skill and technique, which depends on the job, right? You know, think about Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, police officer, firefighter. They all have special skills that you know is coming in your training that you should be preparing for. That's what we do now. So you can get through the training, not only get to the training, but through the training. So this is a program I run. It's a membership program. If you're interested, I do these closed group Facebook live videos to the 400, a little bit over 400 people that are in the closed group, Stu Smith Tactical Fitness closed group page. But every week you get new workouts. You get the beginner, intermediate level. You get the advanced spec ops levels. You get an archive to both of them. Right now we have over a year's worth of archived workouts for both levels of beginner, intermediate, and spec ops level. Periodized, like I just mentioned, in spring, summer, winter, fall. I'm building a ebook access as well, where you can actually access ebooks as part of the membership program. We do special podcasts and presentations for members only. Jeff Nichols and I are both creating a membership program like this, and we'll still be making videos. There'll be some that are for the public, but there'll be many that are for the members only group. And also, by the way, just by watching this, if you're still on, you can get a free phone app, iTunes, or the App Store, sorry, or Google Play. It's called Navy SEAL Exercises, Stu Smith. It's a great one. It's got 120 plus videos, some workouts in there. It's a free phone app that at least give you a good video library of some of these exercises. Also, if you want to scroll through the YouTube channel, there's over 120 videos on exercises, got swim videos, got over 130 podcasts in here too on this YouTube channel that's open to everyone. So there are some things that are open to the public and then some things that are members only, like the closed Facebook page, that's members only. We do live Q&A sessions 2 times a week, sometimes more, just depends on what I have going. Sometimes I'll put on these special PowerPoints. And if you're ever in the area, we have special ops triathlons every quarter. They're free to members, typically $99 for the triathlon, which is a run, swim, and ruck, by the way, with a mystery PT thrown in there, and we teach swimming as well. A lot of people like getting videos critiqued. Send them to me. You're part of a membership program. I will critique them for you, tell you what you're doing right or wrong. And there's also a community forum. And if you don't like going public with some of your issues, you can always email me or text or call, and we can work them out if it's a little personal that you don't want to share to the public. So that's what we do. And this is like the old program we had was a 52-week program by itself. We had an old program, the advanced spec ops level. We're still honoring those that are still members of that. However, we just combined them and made it into this new membership only program, Stu Smith Fitness Members Club. And we're building an archive with over 300 weeks of workouts that we've been doing for the last 5 years, that you can easily access and see, how to progress throughout the year, or have multiple years to choose from even. So it's kind of fun. But anyway, so this is, closed group Facebook page. We'll do some YouTube live stuff too, as well, just to kind of get the word out there about what we're doing, but also some new Q&A sessions that we'll do on YouTube. I had a really good time yesterday on, Stu Smith Live #1. A great response from you guys. I'll check for questions later. If I can. There's a weird delay using Zoom, putting up these PowerPoints up here. So if I can get to them, I will. If I can't, terribly sorry. But still, email me. My email is stu@stusmith.com. My website, stusmithfitness.com. That's where you can find the membership club, as well as books, ebooks, other type of programs too. So, and if you're in the area, come join us. Heroes of Tomorrow. We prepare Americans to serve, no matter what you are thinking about doing. So anyway, stop by if you're in the area. We'd love to have you over here. I don't see a whole lot of, here we go. I just opened it up now. So we got some questions. I'll take some questions now if you guys are still on. 16 years old, getting ready for rugby next year. Do you have any tips for strength training? Yes, a lot of tips. I would get a program. If at 16, you probably need to put on some muscle mass. So maybe do a Google search on hypertrophy and gaining weight. I'm assuming that's what you need to do, but you also need to work on your running, not just sprinting, but also some medium distance stuff, as there's a lot of running in rugby. I played rugby for 3 years in college, and we used to do sprints mixed with quarter miles, mixed with mile runs. And then we would lift and do high rep calisthenics. So it was a good transition for us. I would say something like my fall or winter cycles would be ideal, where we mix in lifting, we mix in running, mix in swimming, we mix in biking, just to get some non-impact options. We also mix in some, high rep calisthenics too. So you need a little bit of everything for that sport. So that's a fun sport. I wish you luck. I hear a lot of injuries that come with special forces. It happens. Are injuries inevitable? I tell you what, I don't know a way to, what's a good word, objectively tell you that doing this will prevent injuries, right? Because how do you judge that, right? By not getting injured? I would hope so. Typically, statistically, you look at things like programs. And if you have a lot of injuries in programming, whether that's a spec ops program or a boot camp or something like that, you may want to look at, your pre-training workups prior to that. What caused that, or the program itself. Did they go from, 5 miles in a week to 40 miles in a week? Which there are some spec ops selections that do that, that ramp you up really quick. So you need to be prepared for that kind of progression by being patient with your training and getting out there. So, are they inevitable? No, but yes, I think with some smart recovery, mobility, flexibility, car buffering. Where's my car buffer? Damn, I didn't bring my car buffer, but a foam roller can help you prevent a lot of those injuries, I think. Especially the common overuse injuries. I've heard you and Jeff talk about 2XU race socks for running. I'm curious about trying a pair. You know, compression socks and pants are great. I don't know about using them for running. Some people do. I tend to use them for after running, just as to help speed up recovery. So check when you should use compression socks. Like I said, some people use them for running. Only time I've used compression socks for running is when I had a calf injury and I just wanted to hold it in a little bit tighter. And that helped. I've seen people do it with Achilles type injuries, just really more just to remind them that something's hurt, and keep things a little tighter in there. But yeah, I'm a fan of compression gear, especially 2XU. Good stuff. Let's see. How can I increase my, let me see, man, I don't know what happened here. It's a whole bunch of questions just came in. How to increase my full body power. Well, power is a function of speed. So you lift and you lift fast, so maybe take it down really slow and then explode up. That's one way. Doing sprints, taking your weight on a squat down really slow, bring it up real fast, vice versa. That you can do deadlifts the same way. But anyway, full body power means you're going to move a certain particular amount of weight across the distance really fast, right? So think about all the different ways you can do that. You can do that with calisthenics, add jumping into your squat. So every squat you go down real slow and explode up, right? That is making power. You can do the same thing with push-ups. Hey, good advice there, Austin, for rugby. It is legs, absolutely. Strong legs, lots of lunges, lots of running. So we would do what we call run and leg PT. So we'd run quarter miles and do squats and lunges. We would repeat that over and over again. We'd run hundreds and do, squats and lunges and farmer walks and things like that. If you ever notice a rugby player, especially a really good rugby player, just look at their legs. They are not skinny, right? They are very strong. But fast too, so it all works in there. Does anyone know anything about the new PJ curriculum? Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of studying on it, doing some updates on my PJ programming. The PST has stayed the same. There may be a few issues with changing the some of the scores, but they're minimal. My recommendation is, if you're going to swim 500 yards, do it in 8 minutes. If you're going to run a mile and a half, do it in 9 minutes. If you're going to do push-ups, do 100. If you're going to do sit-ups, do 100. If you're going to do pull-ups, do 20, right? Hit those standards and you won't have to worry about whatever the minimum standard is, right? Those standards will set you apart in your training, right? That is an above average score that I would recommend getting down to, period. If you can do any of those faster than that, great, good job, But yeah, there's a great prep program. In fact, they even changed the name. It's no longer Battlefield Airmen. It is called Air Force Special Warfare. So just check it out. There's a special warfare prep program. If you go on Google, you will find the program that runs all the pre-training. They have like a mentor system like Navy Special Warfare does now. So they actually help the recruiters prepare guys for the pipeline. And that's every of them. That's PJ, CCT, TAC-P, EOD, SEER, weather spec ops guy. So yeah, check that out. There's a lot out there that's growing, and starting January, it will be new. So stand by. Actually, we probably will talk about it. I just wrote an article about it the other day because somebody asked that exact question, and I just posted it on military.com. At least I gave it to my editor, so I'm not sure if it's posted yet. Could I ever train in person? Could I ever train in person? Okay, I'm not sure what that means. With you in person. Okay, I see. You just went a little tight. Yeah, did you not hear what I was talking about earlier with the Heroes of Tomorrow? Go to stewsmith.com and click at the very top line. Says free workouts. It's in red, right? It's to get your attention. Click that and read it. Watch the video, and it will explain it. If you are in Maryland, at some point you can train with me. I do go on the road a little bit, but not a whole lot. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be training with me in Maryland if you're training with me. So there you go. Also increase my broad jump for SF selection in my country. You know what? We used to have broad jump as part of a test a while back ago, and I always liked that one. I think it's a great test, but it's once again, it measures power, measures leg power. So you being able to do a squat and explode, not just upward but forward, is the way to do that. So what I would recommend doing is on your leg days, just make sure you are adding power movements to your strength movements. And like I mentioned above, that means, go down slow, explode up. Anytime you're doing calisthenics, squat and explode up, jump, try to jump and like you're trying to slam a basketball, right? Get on up there. And then learn how to jump, right? That means using your arms, throwing them forward, and landing with your knees tucked, right? So you get a little extra distance. So you should be landing in a squatted position, to do that jump really well. If you really want to watch some guys that are really good at it, you need to search NFL Combine, and you will see 6-foot tall guys jumping 10 feet, 11 feet, which is just insane, right? If you get your body height in a jump, that's pretty good. Almost, I would say that's kind of a minimum standard. If you can get a little bit above your body weight, 1 or 2 feet above your body height, that's a good standard. So 2.7 meters, roughly, probably close to someone's height, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, depending on who you are. So anyway, hope that answers your question. Played football through high school and college, never tried rugby, but since there's no local football team, I might give it a shot. I would, especially if you're thinking about transitioning from, powerlifting football player type world to a more endurance type job in the tactical professions. Spec ops, definitely. It's a good transition, and it took me from like I said, that powerlifting football player to a little bit more endurance focused. And then I was able to take that foundation a little higher and, add some spec ops level training to it. So, okay, here's another question. What running program would you recommend for a swimmer with zero running experience? If you're a zero running experience, I would recommend a true beginner running program. A beginner running program, which I have articles on it. If you Google it, you will see it. Beginner running program, Stu Smith. I would run every other day and start it off really short, maybe a mile max per day. And then you progress 10 to 15% every week. Eventually, you will build up to running 4 days a week, and then 5 days a week, then 6 days a week. But that will take you months to do, especially if you're a swimmer who has been used to zero gravity all your life in your athletics. I've seen a lot of swimmers break their legs, shin splints, stress fractures, tendonitis. It happens. You got to get used to gravity, but you have to do it gently. So that's a good question. In fact, we answered this question pretty in depth whenever you go back in some of the podcasts on this channel, or you can go to iTunes or Google Play, and you will see podcast on the swimmer who is preparing for buds. right? How do you take a guy who has been swimming all his life and get them spec ops ready? It requires a beginning running program and logical progression. Last thing you want to do is jump into a program that's going to have you running 20 miles in a week. You will break in about 2 to 3 weeks. I can almost guarantee you that. Let's see. Does your program benefit all sizes, as in height wise? I guess. I wouldn't see why not. Depends on your goals. I will tell you, if my program is not for you, you just got to ask. Send me an email and give me a little more details. 6'3" is not gigantic, if you're 6'3". Depends on what your goals are. Now, if you were 6'10", I might give it to you, but 6'3" is not abnormal. So I don't see why it would be a problem. Let's see. Everybody's talking about rugby. That's great. Let me see. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here. Let me see. A couple more questions. Let's see. Played college basketball, 6'5". Okay, now you're talking taller. That's in the zone. 215, not bad. Explosive athlete. Yep, most basketball players are. 845, great swim. 65 push. That's long limbs. Sometimes harder to do push-ups and pull-ups. Not bad though. And a 10-15 run. I want to be a SARC. I want to max the SEAL Marine PST. Give myself a year. Oh yeah, that's easy. Okay, that's exactly what we're talking about. I mean, you can do it a couple different ways. I mean, you don't have to buy any programs per se. I mean, I have programs here like this one that is a calisthenics running swimming cycle. It's a 12-week program plus a bunch of beginner cycles. It's 12 weeks to buds. It's all calisthenics, running and swimming. It'll take you from an explosive speed athlete into a more hybrid endurance, high repetition, a lot of high repetition and higher mileage athlete pretty progressively. And it bell curves even, and then it comes down and tapers. And typically by week 12, 13, you're going to have your best PST scores ever. This is a little bit more all encompassing. Tactical fitness has strength cycles in it. It has calisthenic cycles in it. It just depends on, your timeline. You have a year. I would, take where you are right now, finish up the winter with, a little bit of lift, build some strength up. Looks like you're pretty lean. Build some strength up in your upper torso. So chest and shoulders, work triceps a lot more, just because those, and biceps, just because those are going to be needed for your push-ups and dips and pull-ups. And then of course running, and just keep your run short right now, short and fast, nothing longer than 1.5 miles, 2 miles. Work your 6 to 8 quarter-mile runs at goal pace. Learn a new goal pace. You can try to get that goal pace down to a 9-minute 1.5 miles. So you can, be at a 6-minute mile pace for a test, which what I would recommend. So you can do all that in a winter cycle. I got this one here that mixes lifting. This is kind of phase 2 of my Navy SEAL workout. It's all lifting. It's the winter cycle basically. So yeah, that's a good one. It's a good question. Any advice for FBI PFT? Been following your program. Oh yeah, I recognize the name, Carolina. I would say, just keep getting after it. Those push-ups are hard. The sprint combination with the 1.5 miles is hard. So I would recommend, doing more, sprint run combinations, because you got to get used to that test, which requires you to do sit-ups and a 300-meter sprint, and then push-ups, and then 1.5 miles. And then I would also get good at pull-ups too, because there's going to be obstacles at the academy that you have to take, where you have to climb walls and ropes and ladders that, get good at being able to pull your body weight over something. People neglect pull-ups and to their detriment because they can't pass, certain, obstacle courses and, levels of the training program. But yeah, keep following the program. If you have the program, it's there for you to make you better. And please ask questions if you got some specific questions or you need to, no book is going to be a personalized training program. That is the one thing about any of these books I just showed you. You may have to take that might have to take that book and personalize it for yourself, right? Which means if you've never run before, don't listen to what my book says about running, unless it says beginner running program, right? You may even have to alter that some. If you've never done pull-ups before and you can't do any, well, my workouts have pull-ups in them. You're going to have to think of something else that you can do to get those reps in, whether that's a few negatives, it's doing pull downs instead of pull-ups, so you have to be willing to make adjustments to this. And that's what I'm here for. I actually leave my email in all of my books and say, email me if you have questions. I'll walk you through how to change it to your, make it fit your ability. So that's what I tend to do. So Eric, let's see, life is good. Always good to stay relevant as long as it is nothing in the past. I don't see anything wrong with it being older. However, I think I might have missed a few of your earlier posts. So, but yeah, let me see what you said, Eric. I think you guys might hear my beagles. Let's see. Exercise physiology student. Excellent. Probably going to teach you more on the science behind exercise. So you will. Oh, I see what you're doing. You are talking to Life is Good. Sorry. Duh. Yeah, good. Excellent. Hey, good advice there, Eric. Nice work. So, yeah, so Life is Good. Thank you for the note. Yes, absolutely. Get an exercise physiology book. I have a whole bunch of them. In fact, I am reading this one right here. If you want a good one, get this one, right? The Essentials of Tactical Strength and Conditioning. There's even a certification program for it too. I did the CSCS program for NSCA, but that's a great one if you really want a good physiology book. That if you're thinking about tactical strength and conditioning, right? The National Strength and Conditioning Association is a great program. I enjoy it. I've learned a lot from them, and highly recommend it if you're looking at learning the science behind much of this, or be like Eric and become a exercise physiology student. Let's see. All right. So sorry, you guys were talking to each other. I thought you were talking to me. So let's see. All right. Shin splints questions. I'm doing stretches and foam rolling. Any other advice? Shin splints are a tough one. Rest, ice, anti-inflammatories, non-impact activity for a while. But it sounds like you're on the right track, stretching and foam rolling. Work to build those muscles, get some blood pumping in there. I do a lot of balance work with folks that have shin splints. So make them stand on one leg, close their eyes, and you'll start feeling the blood really flowing into your calves and shins just to stay balanced. Do that on both legs, but one leg at a time. There's also these little balance devices. I think the Strong Board is one of them, where it's kind of a platform sitting on springs. If you do squats on that, it will shake pretty violently, but it's a lot of blood rushing to your feet, ankles, and shins. That can help with healing as well. But mainly it's rest, ice, and some form of anti-inflammatory Can you share some success stories of your heroes of tomorrow? Oh yeah. In fact, I saw a whole bunch of them this Christmas break because, like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years. And I have people who come back to visit their home. And we have, oh, hear my dog, Beagles, must be a human walking in my front yard. But anyway, we have success stories such as people come back home to visit. And we had 2 recon guys come back to visit, 2 Army SF guys, a couple of SEALs the last few weeks. And they're just doing great things. Got some FBI agents, got an FBI agent that made SWAT team, FBI agent that made the HRT. We have probably one of my favorites is a broken down firefighter who was pretty banged up after a police car hit his truck full speed. He was all messed up. A couple surgeries, and we were able to rebuild him a little bit post, not that we did any physical therapy. We took him post physical therapy and got him stronger, able to get back into the things he likes to do. So, yeah, we take all levels, but yeah, it's awesome. It's been a lot of fun seeing these guys make it through training, especially, SEAL training, which is my background. I really enjoy helping mentor those guys to, all the little things that they need to do to prepare themselves. And really, everybody's different. Everybody has different weaknesses that you got to make less of a weakness. And that is how it works. There you go. Yep. Cool. Let's see. Should I do personal runs in combat boots? I don't think it's necessary. I'd like to when I was pre-training just to get used to it. However, I didn't start until I had a pretty good progression with running. I was probably up to at least 25, 30 miles a week before I started running once a week in boots. And I think probably by the time I got about a month's out from buds, I was probably running 2 or 3 times a week in boots, but the other times in running shoes. And then by the time you got to buds, you were 100% running in boots. So I think you should. There will be some people that say you shouldn't, but as long as you are smart about it and progressing and not just jumping into a running program from a beginner wearing boots at the same time, that's fine. I would recommend progressing your runs to a level that is, you are no longer a beginner running program. I'd say you're intermediate level to advanced. And now you start adding in boots, once a week for short amount of mileage, and then progress that 10% each week. But you got to give yourself time to do that. You can't just jump into running and boot wearing at the same time. What's the difference between Lifting Cycle and Max Fitness and the most recent books? Very good question. Max Fitness is more of a hypertrophy cycle. I would call it even a bodybuilding cycle. You need to put on some muscle mass. That's a good one to do that with. It's a lot of isolation exercises. It's got some compound movements in it too, but mainly it's to put on muscle and to get a little stronger, put on some weight. Especially in the winter, you're going to eat a little more and lift a little more and put on some weight, run a little less. I think in there's some swimming and biking in there, very little running. So it gives you a break from the impact of running as well. So it's very similar in what it's meant to do. It's just a little different in how it does it. So the other workouts are a little more powerlifting cycle, squat, deadlift, power cleans, bench. You still have those exercises, but it tends to be a little more movement oriented versus isolation oriented. So there's just more isolation exercises in Maximum Fitness. Good question though. Would you, Eric says, would you recommend TSAC or would you do CSCS? I've been a CSCS for, I don't know, over a decade and a half now. And I Love it. It has been very good. The TSAC is relatively new, and when it first came out, they didn't have a textbook. So I've been waiting around to get qualified in the TSAC, just to have that extra certification, till they had a textbook, and it was a little more regimented in its style of preparation. But like I said, I've been a CSCS for a long time. It has been a great foundation for what I do. I take some of my experience from being in the military and spec ops, and mainly focused on guys not in sport but in tactical preparation. So a lot of those experiences will go real well with how I use the CSCS. But I'm looking forward to advancing my education with the TSAC too. So, it's up to you. I think a CSCS is good enough foundation. Absolutely. Especially you're an exercise physiology major, got that, on top of it. But sometimes people like to see the TSAC certification if you're going to work for a company that prepares tactical fitness programming for groups out there, and there are many out there. So, all right, I got time for one more. I've really gone on with this one. Just wanted to say thank you for everything. Started OTS. Oh, good. Nice. Hey, man, get after it. Good luck this next year for you. All right, so that wasn't a question. We'll do one more. How would wanting to prepare for a triathlon or a marathon for fun work with your PT club? Oh, that's tough. That's I have two different ones. Now I have one that is kind of a generic programming, which I talked about earlier in this video. But I have an online personal training club, which I think you're talking about, which is personalized to the individual. So you tell me what you want to train for, and we will create programming for you around that goal and where your current fitness level is, your time per day, days per week, your facilities, what you have to use. All of that comes into play for that program. We'll make it for you. That plain and simple. I have the guys that are doing Spartan races. I have guys that are preparing for the military. I have people in their 50s and 60s that just want to lose 20 pounds, or I even have a couple of guys wanting to lose 80 pounds. And I have 50 and 60-year-olds getting after it and doing 20 plus pull-ups. So really kind of depends on where you are and how that online PT club works out. So if you go to stewsmithfitness.com, you'll see a coaching link, and that's what that is. You'll also see a members only section, which is more content driven. You have access to a whole bunch of content that is not personalized for anyone. It is generic, beginner, intermediate, advanced spec ops training. It's basically what I do here locally with all my guys, and I just write everything down that I've been doing for years, and you will see exactly what we do here. So that's kind of what that is. All right. All right. So anyway, I need to go. I wanted to test out this new software that allows me to share my PowerPoint with you. I'll try to come up with more. If you guys have ideas for a presentation or something you want me to talk about, send it, and we will put it up there. Also, Jeff and I are doing another PowerPoint here, or sorry, another podcast here in the next few days. I think you'll like the topic. It's kind of a hard gainer type exercise, building durability if you're really light, skinny. So anyway, we'll let you see that one whenever Jeff gets back from travel. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for attending. And if you got any questions, check out the link in the bio. Email me as well, and I'm happy to work with you. So thank you very much. Have a good weekend.